It's Captain Matt, Boater's Secret Weapon, and today we're going to talk about boats that you need to run away from. Don't walk away from them, run away from them. So the number one is a stern drive that's got the Volvo XDP drive. It's a composite drive that Volvo tried back in 06, 07, 08, somewhere around that range is when it came out. And it was a disaster. There's some class action lawsuits that came about it, but you might find a boat that looks amazing. It looks like a beautiful boat, but the reality is that drive is going to give you issues. And if you have problems, there basically is zero support for that drive anymore. Matter of fact, if you really search long and hard, you'll find that they were offering some money to replace them because they're just trying to get them out of the world. You know, that was 07, so 15 years ago. They're trying to get those out of the world so Volvo can move on. Overall, Volvo drives are great drives. I run a Cobalt that's got a Volvo on it a lot, that my in-laws have. A really sound drive, but that XDP drive is one you want to stay away from. A boat with low compression. Now, what that means is the engine's just not firing as strong as it should be. The specs on it will vary based on the engine that you're looking at, but 180 or so could be a good number for compression. Check your specific engine, and if it's down to, let's say, 120, it may run fine if you run it on a hose in the driveway. It may run fine if you just crank it up, but when you put it under load with some weight in the boat, and you're actually running at speed on the water, it won't perform. You won't have the power that you should. It's going to make the other cylinders have to work harder, and it's not going to be an even engine. So that's one that you want to run away from because there's always another boat. Next, now I'm going to lump these three together because they're older. The OMC Stringer drive, the Cobra drive, I'm not a huge fan of, but you can walk away from that one. You don't need to run. The Stringer, run from that. A Force outboard and an Evinrude fixed, and the Evinrude G2. I might get some pushback on that G2 because there's a group of people that love them, but I'm telling you, the Stringer and the Force, those are older engines and you're not going to come across them often, but they're very touchy. They're very difficult to work on if they've been tinkered with. They're very hard to get back to right. The Ficht has just been a engine that's caused problems since almost the day it came out, and you can watch another video I've got on that. But the G2, why I don't like the G2 is it's such a high-level technology engine. It's the most advanced engine, if you talk to the people that love it, the most fuel efficient. It's great, but there weren't very many made, and there's not very many technicians that are really good at working on them. So when something happens to them, because they're so technical, you can't just take it to any old mechanic. You've actually got to take it to somebody that specializes in the G2s, the Evinrude G2s. Now that they're out of business because Evinrude or BRP shut them down because they just weren't selling, it's going to be nearly impossible to find the support as these engines get older and older, which is going to tank the resale value, so run away from those. Boats with a soft transom and a soft floor, or a soft floor. Listen, if you're looking for a turnkey boat to hop on, to get out and enjoy the water, you want to avoid something that's got some flex in the transom. There's weeping from, you see some rust and some like discolored weeping from any screw holes, any through hole bolts on the transom mounts, anything like that, and a soft floor. If you've got some squish as you're walking along the deck, you want to stay away from those because they're not super technical, but they're dirty, they're long, they're difficult, and they're time-consuming projects. Next is a boat, motor, or trailer, whatever the combination is, that doesn't have a title, or that the name on the title doesn't match the seller, or the serial numbers don't match up. Something doesn't match. Those, I'm telling you, are a nightmare to get addressed in almost every state in the U.S. I'm not sure about Canada, but they're so difficult. I'm going to encourage you to stay away. And if the seller's name and the title name don't match, you have a potential fraud on your hand, and you won't be able to register your boat, which means you're not going to be able to take it on the waterways without getting picked up and getting expensive tickets every time you're out. Next is the SEI lower unit. Now, just like the G2, there's some people that will swear by them, say they're a third of the price and they're just as good. Well, if you look at the whole of them, because they're a third of the price, tells you they're using cheaper material. They're not as durable as the OEMs. I would much rather take a reman lower unit than the SEI. It also tells you that, hey, this boat had some issues and they did the repair the cheap way. What else did they do the cheap way on that boat? Stay away from those. And then if you're in the saltwater environment and it's a stern drive, or you're a freshwater person going to a saltwater boat and it's a stern drive, just stay away. It's not worth it because you don't know how it's been taken care of. It shortens the life. It's a very harsh environment, and you want to stay away from those. If you've got a stern drive in the saltwater environment, make sure you're flushing, make sure you're doing everything right. Even if it's the closed cooling, like the newer Volvos that have the heat exchange, be very cautious of those so that you don't get stuck with somebody else's problem. If you've got others to add to the conversation, leave them down below and help everybody else out. Take care, everybody.